Hello everyone. I am Crawlers, and um, some very sad news for you, rather for me right now. We lost one of our dearest friends, it seems. The Corsair K70 RGB. Despite my best efforts, it seems to break it even further. Well, I have succeeded in, the patient's condition has worsened, and I officially pronounce it dead at 10:49 a.m. October the 26th, 2017. And just for reference, this is a real quick test after I plugged it in, after I did everything I knew, and I plugged it in, and as you can see, it doesn't do anything until I press the Windows logo key, just any key, it doesn't matter which key I press. I pressed it only once, and you can see this is the result. Now, for reference purposes, this is what it did before cleaning. So you can see not a lot has changed. I did give it a good try, to mess with it as best I could, because I figured, well, why, I can't break it any further, right? How wrong I was. Now, just to quickly run down and show you a few photos of what I did and how I did it, just because for fun, and I also want to say a few things about the, the construction of the keyboard and the design and everything, after give you my very, very unprofessional opinion into it as someone who's been digging into this keyboard for a couple of days now. So, what I tried was I tried to clean it on the surface first, obviously. I pulled off every keyboard, every key, and I just cleaned, the top of it, with a brush and a vacuum cleaner, and just tried, and then put the keys in warm water and washed every key, just to give it a good old-fashioned rogering. Then I tried disassembling it further without going nuts on it and desoldering every key, from the main board. Now, to disassemble this keyboard, there are several screws that go from the top, hold the top to the bottom in a few strategic locations, and each of these screws are, to pull out these screws, you don't have to pop, technically you don't have to pop every key. You just have to pop a few of them in, and there's a map of these screws locations online. Basically you have to pop a few, keys and get at the screws and undo them. Now, that's half of the problem. There are two screws left after all this that are in basically unreachable places, and this is where bad design, I think, on Corsair's part really comes in. I think this is part of, what is now, I would call planned obsolescence, because a lot of big manufacturers, particularly, let's say Apple, they don't let you disassemble their stuff, like, just basically gluing the battery in, or gluing the RAM right to the case or the motherboard, so you can't upgrade anything. So, this is a problem, as I said. And what course, in the case of Corsair's K70, you can technically disassemble it, but it'll end probably very badly, and it'll be a one-way ticket, as I said. Now, the two screws I'm talking about, one is buried under this, in the corner, this plastic volume cover thingy, that you have to pop off, and getting something like a flat screwdriver under it, or an X-Acto knife, and basically you will break it or severely chip the paint. So, after you put it back in, you'll probably have to super glue it. So, as I said, it's a one-way ticket. And the other one, and I swear this is true, is buried right under that logo in the middle, the tramp stamp that they call it now. Now, buried how exactly, you might say? Well, you see, the logo is a sticker and a metal one at that, so it technically it bends, it doesn't tear, and after a few hours of persuasion and a convincing argument, was made after threatening its sticky key friends and family, and using a hairdryer, of course, to soften the glue underneath somewhat, so that you can kind of just tear off and hope for the best. Sorry for the potato photo here. My phone has an incredibly terrible camera, and well, you can always super glue the label back on, but it will never be as good as it was, and it will look terrible once you put it back in place, and you'll probably have to clamp it down just to keep it from all the cracks coming up and everything. So after all that, you can pop the top, so to speak, and after under it you will find the main board and a couple of cables that you can carefully unplug to separate the pieces, but it doesn't really matter because the bottom pops off anyway, and the problem is that won't do you much good because, or me rather, because if the offender liquid, and I plead the fifth as to the exact nature of said liquid, well, if that stuff, let's say, is on top of the main board, then, well, you're 6 shades of fucked, because the only way to get that thing off the main board from the top piece, the metal of the keyboard, is to actually desolder each and every key, and by then you'll be happy just to pay for a new keyboard and a lap dance. And speaking of which, I did thoroughly clean the bottom. It's just a piece of plastic molding. It's a tub, so you can run it underwater. A mistake I made losing one of the rubber feet, but no matter, because it literally hasn't made what a shit of a difference in the end, because I, as you did see, it still acts up when you plug it in. I also carefully pumped a little isopropyl alcohol in between the areas where I thought the spill was, and let it dry thoroughly, right under the main board and, in between the metal top cover. Well, I maybe should have used more areas of the alcohol, because over the 5 years I've been eating and drinking next to it. I practically live by my PC. It's my window to the world, because I, being disabled, it's not very easy for me to even go outside, and especially not living in the city right now, because I haven't moved yet. It's, not easy to get to places or people. So I live by my PC. I eat here, I drink here, and there's this keyboard has seen its share of vodka, obviously. Well, all this, as I said, all this cleaning was pretty pointless in the end. It just wasn't enough, and frankly, today isn't a good day for me physically anyway, so I can't really be arsed to go any further with it. I just kind of throw in the towel, and I'll probably just get a new mechanical keyboard. This past week I found a replacement, one of those free Dell keyboards, the most simple, lightest ones that they give free, supposedly free, with their PCs that I had stashed away for like a few years. And well, I mean, it's obviously a rubber dome keyboard, and I played a few rounds of Battlefield with it, and I typed with it, and I just noticed how terrible it feels after I typed on a mechanical keyboard for the last 5 years. And sometimes I type a lot because I type up emails, and a lot of scripts for, I like to keep ideas, outlines for my videos, so I type those up. So needless to say, I like to type. I have no problem, at least physically, with typing, and I say the keyboard, the mechanical one, just gives you such satisfying, feel and click to it. And I actually, before I bought that keyboard a few years ago, I bought this tiny sampler of 5 mechanical keys, and it included, obviously, red, brown, and it included a blue switch. And oh my god, that thing. If I could take it out behind the middle skull and get it pregnant, I would. It just will raise the dead, and that is just one key. It is so loud. Honestly, I can't even imagine a whole keyboard with those things, and times 100 maybe, if you're in an office or something. That would just, drive me to jump out a 100th story office window. Hopefully they open. So, my brother was poking fun at me for one-upping his vanilla K70 a few years ago with an RGB K70, but, I mean, come on, everything must be RGB today, even if that only color it ran for these 5 years was blue. Blue like my soul today. Rest easy, old friend. You will never shine again. Well, actually you will, but it will be uncontrollable, seizure-inducing flickering, so not much use to that. So off to the garbage dump you go. Thanks for watching. Please rate and share this horrible update of a video, and because it helps my channel grow, supposedly. And I actually wanted to take a selfie next to the deceased, but you'll have to pardon me that I didn't, because I have a humongous zit on my forehead, and I didn't want my audience to gunk up their own keyboards with puke. So check out my other videos at the end of this one, and remember, in Soviet Russia, YouTube subscribes you.